Got Alexander Burgos in the podcast. Alex, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell me, what's your company?
My company is Busy Carpenter Bee.
Busy Carpenter Bee.
Right. Yeah.
What do you do and what led you to that?
Basically, right now I'm creating these hearts that you see right here, and what?
Well, this is an audio podcast, so why don't you describe the hearts?
Sure. They're made out of exotic wood, so the
Really?
colors.
Because you could see through them. How does that? It doesn't look like wood.
Yeah.
I feel like I could see through them. I guess I'm not, but I see purple,
Right.
orange, yellow, blue, kind of a reddish orange.
Right. Yeah. So basically, the color of the wood is what they're called. Is there's a red heart, purple heart. There's ebony.
Where do you find wood like this?
Specialty lumber stores. Not everybody carries them.
But, like, how is it special wood? Like, is it specially treated, or are there blue trees growing in some forest somewhere?
Yeah, so these woods, they're from like South America and South Africa, and a lot of them they come from the rainforest.
So, if I walk around in the rainforest, I might see some blue wooded trees?
No, you're gonna see like a regular tree that with bark and stuff like that. Probably not like how we see over here, like maple trees or walnut trees or something. They're gonna have different characteristics, but it's once you cut into them, you're gonna see their color eventually.
And I don't understand, are you cutting down trees in the rainforest? Isn't that bad?
Well, yeah, but, the lumber stores, they have I guess they have a particular amount of wood that they're actually legally they can purchase, and, these woods that I create these hearts with, they're actually meant to for people to hold on to them, to keep them as precious, you know what I mean? And then remind them that these are valuable resources as well.
So people refer to a USP, your unique selling proposition. So your unique selling proposition is that you have access to these specialty woods
Right,
that are very beautiful colors. I'm looking at them right now; they're very beautiful. You design them into these necklaces. I'm looking at them; they're all necklaces of hearts, and attached to these necklaces is meaning that this comes from the rainforest. It's a special resource. It's a reminder we have to take care of them. And you were mentioning to me earlier, there's some donation aspect. Like if you buy the blue necklace, some portion of that is sent to charity.
exactly. So the blue one is specifically it's made for St. Mary's Hospital for Children, and they're located in Queens. So I had a friend that worked there, and I had this idea of always donating a portion of the profits to somebody that really can't help themselves. Only because my background is my parents they suffer from mental illness, so I want to do something to help because I'm aware of those things. You know what
What
I mean?
what what sort of mental illness do they suffer from?
So I basically grew up with my father and mother. My father has the brunt of the illness. He has schizophrenia, and it's really bad. Um,
What does that mean? What did you see when you were growing up? Has it gotten progressively worse?
Progressively, it's gotten better because he's gotten older and lost his energy. But when he was younger, it was bad, and I don't know if he can necessarily handle that situation. You know what I mean? It's something in the brain that's missing.
So what would you see? Like, what would happen? I've
I
never
would
met
be a
someone who's
I would be basically he would hear voices and things like that specifically, you know what I mean? And he would have multiple personalities. He wouldn't think reasonably.
so when he heard a voice, and this is a naive question, but when he heard a voice, would he be able to tell himself, "Oh, I'm just hearing that because of this mental illness"?
No, he'd think it's a real person like me and you talking right now.
Mhm.
And when he'd take his medication, he'd hum sometimes, because obviously he's hearing something. Even with the medication, it's very strong medication.
And your mom also, you said, suffered from.
Yeah, she eventually later on got that because of the stress. I grew up in an abusive household,
Mhm.
and not to put the dirty laundry out there. My parents are doing very well now, and they're very loving, caring, and I appreciate them very much. I love them. But growing up, I had a rough childhood, moving around from place to place. Don't want to sob right now, but um, it's basic. It was pretty rough, you know.
So when things got bad with your parents, for instance, uh, the city would take you out of the house and put you into like foster.
No,
Uh,
my because my father was the main abuser, my mom would run away and things like that.
mhm.
So, I ended up in a shelter at one point, and, that was quite an experience being in a shelter for, like, a year or so in Far Rockaway in Queens. And, my mom would constantly run away because my father, his sickness just got a hold of him, you know what I mean? And he really loved my mom, he didn't know how to express it. There's just something missing, you know what I mean?
And so I'm just again, I apologize for the naive question, but in a shelter, what happens? Do you have your own room, or you were there for a year and a half?
Yeah, so they gave us, like, I think a two-bedroom apartment, but it was in the ghetto. It was, like, kinda like the projects or something like that, and I remember one time, like, a pigeon flying to the window, and, I started playing with it, let me play with it, and then the next morning, I had diarrhea in the bed or whatever, and I caught some type of, virus or something like that. I was sick for, like, a month.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was pretty harsh, and then on top of that, a lot of the kids are not like me, you know what I mean? Like, light-skinned, you know what I mean? Is blacks, Hispanics, and I happen to be half Korean, half Puerto Rican, but because of the way I look, people don't assume that I'm, part of that inner city, so a lot of times I got, um, bullied and things like that. I could remember one time when I was at a bus stop, and, I didn't tell my mom that these kids were taking the money. For some reason, I don't know, my mom is awesome. She worked hard somehow, she managed to give me money, $1 for whatever, snacks for school every single day, always gave me lunch. And I remember, you know, typical standing online, 2 kids. Once my mom left, we get into the bus, they take my money every time, and I didn't tell my mom at all. One day, she saw what was happening, and I don't know where the belt came from, but it came out miraculously out of nowhere. She started whipping these kids. And, you know, that was highly wrong, but they got their ass beaten by a mom, so
Did they
whatever.
bully you more after that? Like,
No, they came up to me, and after it totally stopped, they gave me the money back. They were, like, super afraid, as I remember as a young kid, and, they were like, "Just tell your mom to stay away from us," basically. They're like, tell and,
so
she saved me. She was very strong. She was a very strong mother.
did you go through high school,
Yeah,
from
absolutely. So
these
I went
different
to
ho
Thomas Edison High School.
but
Another
when
thi
you were moving around so much, were you always commuting back to the same school?
Um, not the same school, no. So when we were in Far Rockaway, we went to one school, and then eventually, I think my mom, she had a friend. Her name was Annette Brown, and my mom used to work in a Korean fruit stand store when she first came here to America. And across the street was like a government health center or whatever, and she befriended my mother. So she realized like she can help. She had space for us. So she let my mom stay with her. So I stayed with Annette Brown. God bless her. I haven't heard from her, but she helped us. She helped my mom.
A and so you graduated and, what did you do?
You mean in high school?
Yeah,
After high
after
school?
high school, like, what did you start doing?
Um,
What led you to this business?
to this business. All right, so that's well far in advance. So, during high school and stuff like that, I graduated. I went to college. I studied wood technology.
What kind of technology?
Wood technology.
Mhm. Why? Like, you were living in the ghetto, what you probably never even saw wood unless it was the
Yeah.
wall.
So, during that time, my mom, she worked so hard and stuff like that. She worked in the post office. She managed to get a nice apartment in Bayside, and then I eventually ended up going to Thomas Edison High School in Queens, in Jamaica, Queens. And I basically had a carpentry and cabinet making that I studied, and I graduated with an endorsed diploma. So I was really good at that. And then afterwards, I had a professor. His name is John Marine, and he studied at Yale University, and he studied theatrical prop building.
Mm.
So that was my teacher, and I was fortunate to have that teacher, and he kind of
So s
guided me
so that was how you kind of melded creativity with kind of the vocation of woodworking.
right from there. That's where I got my create. He basically let me experience that my imagination and things, let me do creative works and stuff like that. He was very integral in my training in woodworking. So, and then after that, I went to college. He directed me towards that. So I went to SUNY Morrisville Agricultural College. I studied wood technology. But during that time, like my teenage years, my father, he raised me as somebody with mental disability, and I was very naive. And when you're a man or a young man or a young boy, you always look up to your father. So I always thought that he was normal. It took me a long time to realize that he wasn't reasonable, unfortunately. And there's things that he wanted me to do that I didn't necessarily believe in.
Like
So
what?
it's a religion. So the religion that he's a part of is Jehovah's Witness, and they're good people and things like that. But it's something that um, I didn't believe.
What would you say there's first off, did he was he born into it or did he join it?
Not he joined it.
You think he joined it because of his I'm not saying that one would that you have to be mentally ill to join the Jehovah's Witness, but did he join, do you think, because of the mental illness and the voices he was hearing?
I think he joined it because he found an outlet where people listened to him, you know what I mean? And treated him sort of like if he was normal and things like that. But in the background, he's abusive and stuff, and he's unreasonable. He has a bad schizophrenia where he becomes violent.
And so the fact that you weren't a Jehovah's Witness, did that bother him?
Yeah, when I decided not to be that, that's when I met my wife, at 23, and you know, being a part of that abusive family and then the religion, now going into regular society, I was very naive. You know what I mean? I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about relationships at 23 years old, and that was hard. And then I fell in love with the girl. I was part of Jehovah's Witness. They just fellowship me because, as they would say, I was fornicated before you get married and things like that. But and they would try to reason with me with the Bible, but to me it didn't make no sense because I loved her. I don't care what she
Yeah.
is. So, but they were right in that she wasn't the one for me. You know what I mean? Like, but I was so naive and love blinded, just totally out of the realm of what how society thinks, and I was lost. I didn't have a mind of my own.
And how did you begin this road to where you are now?
So recently, unfortunately, well, I got custody of my two boys, right? So I went through a divorce, and I gained custody of my two boys and things like that. And it was good because uh we you know she wasn't in the right place, but I was at the time, pretty much. And nothing against her, she's a loving mother, and I believe that all kids should be with their mother, but she wasn't capable of taking care of the boys, so I took that on for myself. So I didn't do any restrictions like everybody does. You come on this time and this time. It was fully open. It's for communication because I think that's extremely important for any family. And if anybody's listening, you're in court battles and stuff, stay out of court, communicate with each other, work things out because nobody's going to care about your situation more than your family.
This is really good advice, and I bet you taking on that additional responsibility, responsibility breeds responsibility. So I find that the greater your work ethic, the greater your work ethic will be in the future.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so probably taking on this responsibility sort of really adulted you.
Exactly. And it made me less naive. You know what I mean? It helped me find my own mind. And it's tough. But anyway, to get back, my ex-wife, she passed away recently in 2016. She was only 35, and she suffered from like kidney failure at the time. And it's tough
Oh, I'm sorry to
from
hear that.
yeah, it's tough for my boys and stuff like that. Even now, they're 17. Love you, Alex, Aaron. 17 and 15.
So wait, you're like 40?
42.
Wow, you look I honestly thought you were in your 20s.
All right, thank you.
So what did you do for 17 years? I thought we were just
I
gonna go
don't
from high
know.
school to this company.
I don't know, jogging. I don't know.
Did you
No,
start another company at all? Were you working places?
yeah, basically, at an early age when I was with my wife, I tried to start a company and I did it all wrong. I
Which is normal.
Yeah, I did it all wrong. I didn't even start it properly. It's all over the place, but I ended up getting thousands of dollars somehow. And but I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a mind of my own. I didn't have a direction. I didn't have a
That's okay.
plan,
That
stuff like
happens.
that.
It's
Yeah.
good to go through that experience. And then what brought you to this specifically?
Oh, the hearts. Okay, uh, so basically, it has to do with that, with my ex-wife passing away. It had a big impact. And then, during that time, I had girlfriends and stuff, and I realized that it was the same. My life was the same, and it wasn't them. It wasn't the girlfriends. It was me. I had to change something, and I realized I suffered from depression. I didn't know what that was. Um,
Do you get worried? I mean, so depression is the first sign, and by the way, with clinical depression, there's so many different ways to slice it. Usually the first 8 years, people try to medicate, clinical depression, they get the wrong drugs. On average, it's 8 years to find the correct drug. Could do you think somehow things like schizophrenia and other mental illnesses are partly genetic, and then environmental conditions trigger them. But do you think part of your depression could be you're inheriting something from your dad or your mom since both were mentally ill?
yeah, I think that's probably what happens. Things can be triggered, and what I um just found out is that there's a phenomenon called like where if you're with a person with schizophrenia for quite some time, you can develop those
Is that
symptoms
really
as
true?
well. Yeah.
So even if you were perfectly normal to begin with, or did you have some genetic
Even if you're perfectly normal, and it
I hate
and
to use the word normal there, but you know what I mean.
yeah, because my mom was perfectly normal and she dealt with the stress and stuff like that and always being around him, she eventually developed that. And I studied that
And her parents
recently.
had no mental illness whatsoever.
Um, no, not that I know of.
Hmm,
Only my on my father's side.
hmm, That's interesting. I didn't know that either.
Yeah. I actually listened to a Joe Rogan podcast and I heard that. So,
Who was he? Who was the guest? I want to listen to that one.
uh, I don't recall.
All right, we'll find out.
Yeah.
We'll find out. So okay, so
But then, all right, so let me
yeah,
back to this. So I was depressed and stuff like that, not clinically, but just from my knowledge
you've
and
been through a lot.
yeah, and learning all this stuff, just opening my mind. And then one day I was in Florida, I was visiting, I was still depressed, and my niece needed me to do stuff. She wanted me to do like a project with her, a rocket and a volcano and things like that. So I had so much fun with her and stuff. It was amazing. And I completely forgot about my depression. And I was wondering, like, from that point on, I'm like, why am I depressed? I started questioning myself, you know what I mean? But in the meantime, in order to show appreciation, I carved out a heart out of solid purple heart and I sent it to her for appreciation to show. And I wrote a nice letter. The meaning of the wood, there's some special meanings of these woods and things like that. And one of those meetings happened to be passionate for the Purple Heart, and I sent it. My brother went crazy. He was like, "Alex, you made this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I made that." He was aware that I did working, but he didn't know the extent of my capabilities. And also, I surprised him with his daughter, and I
Well,
never did that.
and I have to say, just looking at these for people who can't see them, these are really beautiful. Did you make? I mean, right now it's probably machine made, right? Or did you?
Right, so I wasn't gonna sit in my garage and whittle 1,000 of these every day.
Yeah.
So, another thing too is I got a CNC machine. It's called a computer numeric control machine, and basically, it's the opposite of a 3D printing machine. So the 3D printing machine builds material up to create the 3D object. CNC machine carves away material.
I didn't know there was a difference. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So it's the complete opposite. Plus, it's a lot more versatile. You can use different materials like plexiglass, wood, aluminum, things like that.
So essentially, but it falls under this broad umbrella of 3D printing somehow.
3D, yeah.
So you basically print this or
It's
manufacture
not
this
it's not printed, it's carved.
carved,
See, wood is one thing if you print it or stamp it, but with wood, you can't really stamp. You gotta carve.
and these are intricately carved. Like it's hard to carve curves
Exactly.
in wood, and there's curves right around the top of the heart along the sides. And okay, so now let's get to the nuts and bolts. Do you sell these?
Yes, I sell them. So I sell them.
How'd you get the first sale?
Uh, it was with my friend in St. Mary's Hospital for Children.
So in the gift shop?
Not in a gift shop, it was just word of mouth and stuff like that, and then people in the hospital were buying it, and also I posted it on Etsy, so I got Etsy sales and things like that.
How much in your first year? How many sales from Etsy?
It was in Valentine's Day this year, so I just started my business this year,
Mhm.
and total for that Valentine's Day was about 1,600 or something, 1,700,
That's great.
and That was just word of mouth, no, SEO, nothing like that. And basically, what I did was I told every sale I donate a portion, 10% of every sale, and then the blue one, which is not a natural color. That's something that there's no such thing as a blue wood in
Mhm.
nature. So I colored that. And that's specific for St. Mary's color. They're blue. Um that half of those proceeds go to St. Mary's besides the 10%.
You can offer, affinity necklaces for every hospital, whatever their color is.
Exactly.
You could
Yeah.
say, "Hey, I'm gonna make the necklace this color." You could buy it, and you can give it to all the patients or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, so recently I went to a small business event and I met a person by the name of Natasha Moore. She's from the American Cancer Society community. She's the development manager. So she heard my story and she was moved and she said, "Can you make one for the cancer patients? Our color is pink." And I said, "Yeah, I can make one." And as a matter of fact, there's a wood called pink ivory.
Mm.
So
So that's real wood.
that's real wood.
And so when in an order like that, what do you expect to sell potentially?
Uh
Like, will
how
she will
many?
she yeah, will she make a big order, or will it be like one
Oh
at a
no,
time?
it's like events right now.
Mhm.
But eventually my idea is have a pot where people can see, so it's kind of like automated where the percentage of the sales people can see where the money's going to. They see it physically. And they have an option. So I create content. I basically interview these people like Victoria Falcone from St. Mary's or Natisha Moore from American Cancer Society. And they tell me what they need for a certain patient or child, right? And I give the people the option to, communicate, to participate in it. They choose it. Now we help this person with the money that we have in this pot. Not only that, but we tell their story. We create more content. We create a story so that there's more sales, there's more
You create a story that
exposure.
they put on their site, the
They could put it on their site, my site. It just basically creates more exposure for the hospital.
Mhm.
And it helps all the way around. And in this day and age, with the video, I don't think anybody's doing that. I want to be one of the first ones to basically create this content and help people that can't help themselves, like my parents. You know what I mean? And also, going back to the donations, right? So 10%. So that Valentine's Day, I actually donated, I guess, close to 2/3 of whatever the profits was, only because my friend Janet Gomez, who worked at the hospital, um, she said that she works at the early education department, and she said they need uh, adaptive swings because a lot of these children, they're in preschool, they can't sit up for themselves. You know what I mean? A lot of them are motionless, and she said she wants a swing. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna donate 10%. I'm gonna donate 2/3 to get this swing. So that's what I did. I restricted the payments to get the swing. They haven't gotten it yet, but the goal is to create exposure, to create a story now in this day and age, and to show people where their money is going to.
So you're linking basically first off, they're beautiful necklaces. Anyone would be proud to wear them, but you're linking kind of the vision with the sale of the product. So you buy this product as part of something bigger.
Right.
And
People could be a part of it.
it seems like you could have you tried so one way to grow is to talk to all the hospitals and charities in the world. Another way to grow is through Etsy and Amazon and just sell this to people and to sell to indie stores and whatever.
Right.
Have you been doing both those angles? Can you do it all yourself?
Yes, I've been doing those angles and I can't do it myself. I've been trying to get help. So I've been working with two entrepreneurs now that they deal with Facebook business pages and stuff like that, by the name of John and Justin.
And does it work setting up a Facebook business page? Have you found sales through that?
So far as is in its infancy, it hasn't been a long time. I haven't been like um really. I don't know how that works. So I
Yeah.
I, I got somebody to do that for me now.
So I think the key is to fail fast.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't work, you move on quickly rather than pouring more resources in. It sounds like the biggest source has been kind of direct connections to the hospitals as direct as possible, because
Yeah.
then they are motivated through their vision to kind of sell more of these. It's like,
So right.
the way people would wear a pink,
Yeah.
bracelet or whatever. Now they have these necklaces
Right. Right.
that people can see. There's more meaning. But, maybe like like if there's a charity run, give it out to everybody who registers for the charity run. That's another example.
Right.
Like as many of these charity events as possible. But I'm curious too if you've tried anything like a crowdfunding site like a Kickstarter.
No, I've never tried that. This is why I came here on this podcast and why I love it so much because I'm nobody would know me. You know what I mean? Nobody would care that I'm doing this stuff. And a lot of times, um, for right now, this is helping me because I do self-diagnose myself with this depression and stuff like that, which I get sad a lot of times. But from that early time when I was helping my niece, I realized something, um, that I was just thinking about myself too much. You know what I mean? Instead of and I was telling myself certain things that was causing me to become depressed. And I found out that actually doing things like that, helping other people, it relieves the depression. And also not telling myself negative things is the biggest part, is what you tell yourself at the end of the day. So you really got to be conscious about what you're telling yourself in your mind
What's a bad day now? What do you tell yourself at the end of a bad day?
at the end of a bad day.
And what is a bad day for you right now?
Thank God I don't have any bad days now. I mean, I'm living life. I'm doing uh
But let's say
what I
like
want to be doing.
you have some inventory of these necklaces. Let's say you have a meeting at a brand new meeting at a hospital and they say, "Ah, no, we're not really interested in this." Is that a
I've
bad
had
day?
that done before. No, it's not a bad day. I mean, I get sad and stuff like that, but I don't tell myself negative things like that I'm worthless, nobody's gonna care about me, things like that. You know what I mean? Like I stay positive. I tell myself, you know, with the struggle, if I continue and I get over it, I'm just gonna get stronger.
So like if I'm pitching a hospital something or the American Cancer Association or whatever, I say, "Here's this piece of software. You're gonna save on costs. You're gonna help more people. Would you buy it?" And they say yes or no. Wow, what's your sales pitch when you're in the door with this?
My sales pitch is what I mentioned before. Basically, what I'm selling is exposure. You know what I mean? And
So people will wear this and they'll walk around and people will say to them, "What's that necklace?" And they'll say, "Oh, it's
right,
the American X Society gave it to me."
right. And I've been to craft fairs and I've been to like a fundraiser walk, and a lot of people they're extremely interested in the hearts, because it's shiny and it has color and stuff like that. But they're like, "What is it?" So right off the bat, it starts a conversation. And not only that, it's linked to my story. So recently in a small business event, they taught us like how do you sell a pen? And to sell a pen, you gotta or anything, any object, you have to connect it with a story which leads to emotion, and then people connect their emotion with logic.
How do you sell a pen? What would you do?
Uh just say it's a commemorative for John F. Kennedy or something like so people who are emotionally attached to John F. Kennedy, now they're more willing to buy like a $500 pen that's really like $2 or something like that.
And what's your goal? Like, let's say not this year, but next year, like how much in sales do you see yourself getting? What do you see? Where do you see yourself heading though with this?
I think for the stars, so I think that people will relate to my story, and they want to be a part. They'll believe in it. I want people to believe in it and also understand that I'm just like them, that you know, I got faults, I got things that I need to work on, and that's extremely relatable, you know what I mean, to everyone. You don't have to be famous, you don't have to be, a superstar or anything like that. You could just be yourself. And
I feel like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, and you could just be honest and people will appreciate that, especially now I like this day and age with all this social media because now a lot of like the the big stars and stuff like that, they're not that big anymore because there's a lot of people that were in the background that are probably even more talented than the so-called talented people, and they have a lot more to offer as far as like real genuineness, you know what I mean?
So right now, where's your dad?
He's in Florida, so he's with my brother. So my brother is a really good son. He's helping them. um I live with my parents as well, and we both take care of them. And I'm just I just feel like I need to be around my parents. You know what I mean? I need to be around with them. I need to take care of them. I don't want them to be in a home and
Was
in
it
a
hard for you to
hospital.
forgive them to forgive your dad for the abuse?
Yeah, when I was immature and things like that, you know what I mean? Like not understanding certain things, I had to come to a realization that my dad is not. He has as much as I want him to be normal and reasonable, he can't. It's a problem. You know what I mean? And in society in general, when you're talking about, he's a veteran as well. There's a lot of veterans with schizophrenia on the street, and they need to be looked after. They're unreasonable a lot of times. They don't have a mind of their own, and that's how I was living for a long time.
I think people I think, like, in Hollywood, there's this um, bad image of mental illness. It's like, oh, they hear voice. It's almost silly the way it's portrayed in Hollywood. When the reality is, many of these people descend into this insanity that they can't recover from. A
Exactly.
lot of the situations where people are accidentally shot and killed in a crime is because the person's mentally ill and doesn't even understand what the officer is saying.
Right.
And I think it's a big societal problem. I think trying to spread a message through these necklaces, I think the more you kind of interweave this message in with the power of these necklaces, just like the same way people sell crystals and other,
Yeah,
kind of jewelry,
like
for
for
years,
rituals
jewelry
and
has
stuff.
been interwoven with mythology and with the gods
Right.
and I think you can do that here and create an even more powerful story. Like when you first laid it out, I wasn't sure of the story of the of like is each type of wood associated with a story?
Um, Not each one, but the blue one in particular. Well, the purple one is originally with my niece, but the other ones are just like they're precious. These woods are precious. You know what I mean? You think of a diamond, which is a natural resource that's precious. A lot of people don't understand that there's woods that are precious resources as well.
And think about the price of a diamond. There's no market for diamonds. Price of a diamond is created by
Per-
perception, by a story.
Right.
There's, uh, you know, in the whenever this story started, De Beer started, it's a woman's best friend.
Yeah.
It's not. That's just a story, and then
Yeah.
suddenly the value of diamonds went up, and also because they made it a scarce resource. But precious woods is a scarce resource as well. It's not like
It is scarce. Yeah.
it's not easy to get a hold of the inside of a tree from the rainforest.
No.
So
By the way, they're so small also. I basically like out of one board foot of wood, I can create like 700 hearts. So
eh,
it doesn't take a big resource or a big chunk of a tree. I can even use like the scrap wood of a tree.
so what's the website where people could buy straight out direct buy the
Oh,
necklaces?
so busycarpenterbeat.com, it should redirect you to.
BusyCarpenterB.com.
Yeah. I don't have like a formal website still, like, all laid out, but
If I search on Etsy for Busy Carpenter Bee also?
it'll do it, yeah, but I got it redirected through that, but if you search for Etsy, it'll be there also. I don't have the new hearts, I have the old ones, so these are updated hearts based on me going out to the field and doing the legwork, asking jewelers, asking people, like females, what they like.
Can you
S
get a big distributor like a jewelry store or like a Target or a Walmart or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me show you the original one. So, the original one was this monster right here. This one is actually, leopard wood.
Mm,
So that was the size. So if you compare, and it's a lot thinner. So this is very thick.
mhm.
So originally I was like, this is pretty small. And the females were like, what do we do with this? So I learned a lot. You know what I mean? I
You can
learned a
make
lot.
bracelets too,
Yeah, you can make bracelets, charms.
anklets.
I'm gonna make earrings soon.
Mhm.
That matches the hearts and things like that.
And so what you really need is either big distributors or more connections with, affinity places like hospitals, charities, and so on.
Right. And also like I do other carvings as well with the CNC machine. So I do plaques. So recently I gave Danny Zoldan, who is the owner over here at New York, Stand Up New York. I gave him a carving, just in appreciation for podcast row and stuff like this is pretty new, different, and I think that this is going to be extremely successful because when people listen to a lot of these podcasters, they're so far removed from trying to relate. You know what I mean? Like I heard, like I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan. He says be the hero of your own story and things like that. But he has millions of dollars, you know what I mean? Like somebody needs to hear like people like me that just started a business to be extremely more relatable, you know what I mean? It's more real in that sense. Um,
So, uh, this is great. Check out Kickstarter just to see how you can build a community of people who support the cause and who are also paying in advance
right.
for necklaces and, other crowdfunding sites like Indiegogo or whatever. And, good luck on this endeavor. Let's check back and see progress.
I also have another link over here. Let me see. If I can get it real quick.
How much does one cost to buy?
So the what is it? The yellow, red, and purple, they're 25, and then with the chain is 30. So $30 for the set. And then the blue and pink. So I made the pink one. It's not yet done. So I just met her last week. I got a pink one that I
Mm.
just made. So the pink and the blue is 40, but half of those go to St. Mary's or American Cancer Society. And then the black one, which is ebony, comes from South Africa. That one is extremely rare, so it's gonna be the most expensive, and that's 50.
Well, um, Alex Burgos, busy carpenter bee. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And good luck, and let's keep in touch on this.
Yeah, absolutely. It was wonderful meeting you.
Thank you. Thank you. Same
Yeah.
here.